It is 9:20 in the morning on the 30th of November 1939. Over Helsinki, the capital of Finland, the air raid sirens begin to wail, and almost nobody moves. There has been no declaration of war. The morning trams are running. People stand in the streets, looking up, trying to work out if this is another drill. Then the first bombs fall into the working class district of Töölö, and the question answers itself. By evening, 91 people in Helsinki are dead. In Moscow, Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov goes on the radio and explains that Soviet aircraft are not bombing Finland at all. They are dropping bread, he says, for the starving workers of Helsinki. Helsinki looks at the firebombs burning its streets and gives the lie a name. They call the bombs Molotov's bread baskets. And in the weeks to come, when they meet Soviet tanks with bottles of burning petrol, they will name the bottle too. A drink to go with the food, a Molotov cocktail. Finland has 3.7 million people. The Soviet Union has 170 million. The Soviet General Staff has allowed 10 to 12 days for the whole campaign. Almost everyone outside Finland agrees with them. The war will last 105 days. It will not end the way anyone expects. 3 months earlier, Poland was erased from the map. And if you have seen what's happened there, you already know the machinery at work here. The same pact that carved Poland in two, the secret protocol signed by Molotov and Ribbentrop in August 1939, drew one more line on the map of Europe. Finland fell on Stalin's side of it. In October, Moscow makes its demands. The border, Stalin points out, runs just 32 kilometers from Leningrad, a city of 3 million and a third of Soviet heavy industry. He demands the frontier be moved back across the Karelian Isthmus, the islands of the Gulf of Finland handed over, and the peninsula of Hanko, the key to Finland's front door, leased as a Soviet naval base. We cannot move Leningrad, he tells the Finnish delegation, so the border will have to move. Finland offers half. It is not enough. The talks collapse in mid-November, and the delegates go home. Then, on November 26th, Red Army artillery fires 7 shells at its own border village of Mainila, and Moscow announces to the world that Finland has attacked it. It is Gleiwitz all over again. The same playbook, the same fake outrage, barely 3 months later. The Finnish guns near the border have been deliberately pulled back out of range. Helsinki proposes a joint investigation. Moscow is not interested in investigations. It tears up the non-aggression pact, and at dawn on the 30th of November, without any declaration of war, 450,000 Soviet soldiers cross the Finnish border along its entire 1,000-kilometer length. A day into the invasion, in the first captured border town, the Kremlin sets up a puppet government of Finnish communists and announces it is the country's real leadership. Some invading units carry orders not to cross into Sweden by mistake when they reach the far side of Finland. Others bring marching bands with instruments for the victory parade in Helsinki. The parade is scheduled for Stalin's birthday, 3 weeks away. On paper, the fight is absurd. Moscow commits over 2,500 tanks. Finland owns 32, most of them out of date. In the air, the odds are 30 to 1. Finland's field army, some 300,000 men once the reservists arrive, goes to war in its own civilian clothes, with an army belt, a cap badge, and whatever rifle can be found. The soldiers call it Model Kajanda, after the Prime Minister who never funded anything better. Against this stands one advantage nobody in Moscow has thought about: the ground itself. Except for the Karelian Isthmus in the south, the border is a wilderness of forest, swamp and lake, with almost no roads. A modern army of tanks and trucks cannot leave the roads. And this winter will be the coldest in living memory. By January, -43 degrees. Commanding Finland's defence is Field Marshal Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim, called out of retirement at the age of 72. Across the isthmus, engineers and volunteers have scraped together a belt of bunkers, trenches and barbed wire that the newspapers grandly call the Mannerheim Line. Much of it is 20 years old. Some of it is logs. If all goes according to plan, the Red Army will crack it in a week. On the isthmus, the invasion columns grind into the line at Summa and Taipale and stop dead. Tanks arrive without infantry, infantry without tanks. Finnish machine gunners, many of them farmers shooting from ranges they know like their own fields, cut down assault after assault. By Christmas, the southern front has not moved. Further north, in the roadless forest, something stranger is happening. The attacking divisions advance in column, strung out along single forest roads. Steel snakes, 30 kilometers long, that cannot turn around. The Finns, on skis, in white, invisible against the snow, do not attack the snake's head. They cut it into pieces. They strike the column at a dozen points at once, blow the field kitchens first, then vanish back into the trees. Each severed segment is surrounded, starved, frozen, and destroyed, one piece at a time. The Finns call the tactic Motti, a stacked cord of firewood waiting to be chopped. At Tolvajärvi, on December 12th, Finland wins its first clear victory. But the masterpiece comes at the turn of the year, near a crossroads village called Suomussalmi. Two Soviet divisions, the 163rd and the 44th, have been sent to cut Finland in half at its narrow waist. In a week of fighting at 40 below zero, a single outnumbered Finnish division destroys them both. On the Raate road, the rescue column is carved into Mottis and wiped out. When the shooting stops, the road is an 8-kilometer museum of frozen men, dead horses, and abandoned armor. The victors tow away 43 intact tanks and drink the captured field kitchen soup. Two divisions, some 25,000 men, have been wiped from Moscow's army, at a cost of roughly 1,000 Finnish dead. On December 14th, the League of Nations expels the Soviet Union as an aggressor. It is the only country ever thrown out. Newsreels of white ghosts on skis run in cinemas from London to New York, and the world falls a little in love with Finland. Love, the Finns note, is not ammunition. On the Kollar front, where a shrunken Finnish regiment holds a line it has no right to hold, the divisional commander is asked whether Kollar can survive another assault. The reply becomes a national motto: Kollar will hold. Holding it, in a snow pit forward of the line, is a 34-year-old farmer named Simo Häyhä. He is 5'3". Before the war, his passions were hunting and competition shooting. Now the two have merged. He works alone, in a white hood, with packed snow in front of his position, so the blast of his rifle will not stir up the snow, and lumps of snow in his mouth, so his breath will not show. He refuses a telescopic sight. The lens can glint, and a scope forces a man to raise his head an inch higher. Iron sights, he says, and a smaller target. In 98 days of war, Simo Häyhä is credited with 505 confirmed kills. 5 men a day, every day, in temperatures that freeze rifle oil. The Red Army learns his sector and hates it. They shell whole tree lines to erase one man and send counter-snipers who do not come back. The soldiers opposite begin calling the thing in the snow Belaya Smert, the White Death. On March 6, 1940, an explosive bullet finds him and takes away half his jaw. The stretcher bearers who carry him out say half his head is gone. He does not die. He lies in a coma for a week and wakes on the 13th of March. Pay attention to that date. Stalin has been humiliated in front of the world, and he responds the only way he knows, with mass. Command passes to Marshal Timoshenko. Through January, the army rehearses, stockpiles, and masses 600,000 men against the isthmus. On the first morning of February, the sky falls in. On some days, 300,000 shells land on the Finnish lines. A weight of bombardment Europe has not felt since the Western Front of 1918. There are no forests at Summa to hide in, and no Mottis to cut. This is pure mathematics, and Finland is out of numbers. On the 11th of February, the line breaks. By the end of the month, the army is falling back on Viipuri, Finland's second city, and whole divisions are attacking across the frozen sea itself, around the flanks, over the ice of Viipuri Bay. Companies of exhausted Finns are commanded by sergeants, because every officer is dead. Help is a rumour. Britain and France announce an expedition, and Norway and Sweden refuse to let it pass. Volunteers, aircraft and ambulances arrive in small numbers. Armies do not. On March 12th, in Moscow, a Finnish delegation signs what its own president calls a peace with iron-hard terms. At 11 o'clock the next morning, the guns stop. The terms are brutal. Finland loses 11% of its territory, the whole Karelian Isthmus, Viipuri, the shores of Lake Ladoga, and Hanko as a Soviet base, more than the Soviets had even demanded in October. Some 422,000 Karelians, 1 Finn in 8 of the Lost Lands population, every one of them chooses the same thing. They abandon their farms, their churches, and their dead, and walk west into a smaller Finland, rather than live under the flag now rising behind them. Across Finland that morning, flags come down to half-mast. And yet, in 105 days, this nation of 3.7 million has suffered 25,904 dead, and inflicted losses Moscow will spend 50 years refusing to count. The official Soviet figure admits 48,000 dead. Post-Soviet archives push it past 126,000, with some counts far higher. Khrushchev in his memoirs would shrug and say 1 million. Add at least 1,600 tanks and hundreds of aircraft, destroyed by a country that began the war with 32 tanks of its own. One Red Army general, looking over the land they had won, sums the whole war up best. We have gained just about enough land to bury our dead. Of all the nations handed to Stalin's side of that secret protocol, the Baltic states, Eastern Poland, Finland, only Finland ends the war still flying its own flag. Bloodied, smaller, but free. It is the only one. In Berlin, Adolf Hitler studies the Red Army's performance and reaches a conclusion that will cost him everything. Russia, he decides, is a colossus with feet of clay. Kick in the door, and the whole rotten structure will come crashing down. 15 months later, he will act on that lesson, and 4 million men will discover at Moscow and Stalingrad exactly what the Finns could have told them, that this particular colossus learns. And Simo Häyhä, the White Death, who woke without a jaw on the morning the war ended, lives another 62 years, a quiet dog breeder and moose hunter, who never once boasted of the number 505. Near the end of his life, an interviewer finally asks how he had become the deadliest sniper in history. He gives a one-word answer: practice.